Aloha and welcome to this very important day today. And I'm so grateful for all of you who are still with us. And thank you very much. This has been a project that we came together very quickly, but thank you to our team for executing. I'm Ron Mizutani, and I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And we thank you for joining us for this exclusive HIKI and the healing power of storytelling. You know, the film you just saw, the program you just saw will be airing on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on January 11th, but we're grateful that we gave you, all of you stakeholders in what we do, a sneak peek. We're going to be streaming that as well at pbsfa.org, but in the meantime, I want to introduce you to our guests. And they look familiar because they were part of that program. I want to welcome TERRI INEFUKU, HIKI longtime mentor, and also a longtime journalist. KAIMI, KAUPIKO, Kumu at Kua Okala Miloli, Hipu Virtual Academy. KAIMI, mahalo for joining us. KAIMI is also a community advisory board member for PBS Hawaii. MESTISA Gas, she is a program director at Mental Health America Hawaii and Mental Health America Hawaii, a new partner of ours as we continue this discussion on mental health, especially with our youth. And finally, without any really introduction needed, but a longtime friend of mine, Robert PENNYBACKER, our Vice President of Learning Initiatives and the Executive Producer of HIKI, one of the first who had the vision for this project more than 10 years ago with Leslie, and he's come to fruition. This is his baby. So we thank you again for all joining us. We're going to ask you to submit your questions. In the meantime, I do have one. Let's get straight to Robert. First of all, Robert, let's begin with you. And I'm going to ask you, why is storytelling so very important with our keiki right now at this time that we're in?
That's a great question. Before I answer it, I just want to quickly let those of you who are coming from out of Hawaii what HIKI is. It's PBS Hawaii's youth media program in which we mentor students across the state. We're in 90 schools to do PBS quality stories. You saw the mentoring process in the film. And when those stories have met PBS standards and are approved, they get curated into a half-hour show that airs on PBS Hawaii Tuesdays at 7:30. So that's what HIKI is. And HIKI means can do. Ron, storytelling is so important now. It's always been important, but even now more than ever, because of what all of us are experiencing now, and particularly our youth, telling their stories is really recording history. When you think about it, this era that we're in is as momentous a part of history as you can get. And we really need to record what is happening to humanity during this COVID crisis. I think for the students themselves, though, storytelling gives them the opportunity to reflect, to step outside themselves and process all that's going on with them. I think we could all use that, but particularly for the students, when you think about how much they've been impacted, and they're at a point in their lives where they're forming their personalities, such a critical time in their lives, this disruption really needs to be processed and defined for them so that they can move forward. And I think it's extremely important, not just in the HIKI form, but in other forms of storytelling as well.
Yeah, this has gone beyond storytelling, though, Robert. And I think, TERRI, you said this once before, that we're developing the full student, if you will. And in the meantime, these reflections have really had an opportunity to help people heal and address something called mental health that sometimes was so taboo to talk about.
Yeah.
One thing I think that is really important at the start of the process is in the process of storytelling, students are required to really look at the full story. And sometimes that vision isn't quite there in the very beginning. And that was true even for Kea's reflection. You saw the rough pitch sheet she had thoughts, had ideas, had feelings. They were all great. But then it came time for the conversation of, okay, how do we turn these thoughts, these feelings into a full story? And that requires adding more detail, adding context, thinking about the situation in maybe ways that she hadn't thought of before, and really creating a space. That initial meeting was trying to create like a safe space to really just talk and get to know more of her story, more of the elements, so that we could figure out, okay, in the discussion, we have the information that we're going to get, and then we decide what are we going to put into the reflection to tell the story. So there's kind of two different conversations going on. One is an internal one, and then we decide what information can go into that. And that requires a lot of soul searching, a lot of internal reflection, and then putting it out there for the world to see, which I think is a huge process for any student.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. It requires a lot of trust. And KAIMI, this question is actually for you. Someone wants to know, when did you decide to make this in-depth look at how the reflection came to be? If it almost feels like you were documenting throughout. How did this all come about? I mean, I know it was never an assignment.
No, it was very is every student kind of comes in, and they try to bring something that they're interested in telling. And for Akia's specific story, it was just, kind of just going, through the emotions and the process, and then it kind of evolves. And I think that's the beauty of the HIKI no, is that it really starts to become something else as we start to get in there and really in depth. And the question definitely is something that we don't start off, it eventually evolves. And I think she definitely told her story, and we're very proud of her.
Yeah, very proud of her indeed. MESTISA, I'm going to ask you, MESTISA, you watched this and saw a young woman share her heart, and how important is that in the healing process? Mental health is such a hot topic right now. And, these reflections have really started organically, but they are very powerful, aren't they?
They are very powerful, and I feel very blessed to have come in and been able to see kind of the end product of it, but also get to see her watch it for the first time since making it and creating it. And I think that if you follow along, which is what's so great about being able to see kind of the process of it, that every time she kind of revisits her own story, that she has a different take on it, because she's consistently growing and reflecting on how she felt about it, but was also still in it through some of it. So you get to see this just beautiful snapshot across this period of time. And like Robert highlighted, that is history in the making, that she'll be able to look back and see how much she's become resilient, how her family was supportive, but also that she's able to share that. And so many people in the community, like myself, see themselves in parts of that story. And I think that's where a lot of the power comes from, and her being able to authentically share her story, and all of us be able to see that.
Programs like this, MESTISA, really, we want this conversation to continue. And something like this needs to continue, because it's an opportunity, and that we need to utilize and take advantage of. How important is this to continue?
Yes, Ron, I think the point about when do we decide to do this program, I think that may have been the question that people just watched now, is it was really an afterthought. When the HIKI no team first saw Akia's finished reflection, we were just blown away, like everyone is. And that was last school year, and it kept me thinking about what went on. I had just had the inkling that her story that ended up being broadcast was just the tip of the iceberg, and so I wanted to explore, what the process was. And so we invited all the guests that you saw on the show, just to kind of retrace the steps. And I think we discovered a lot of important things that weren't in the final piece. One of them was the incredible support that she gets from her teachers and her family. And so I think by doing this sort of behind the scenes or making of program, we got a sense of who else was healed. It wasn't just her, it was everyone who was working with her. She led the charge, she was the leader, because it was her personal story, but everyone involved, I think you would all agree, healed somewhat as well, just because of, having that opportunity to support her through this.
Thank you, Robert. The questions are coming in, and I want to get to as many as we can in our short time together. Question for, I'm going to ask you, KAIMI, why do you think storytelling has unique healing power that Robert just spoke of? And thank you for your question to the viewer watching.
That's a great question, Ron. When I look back, and she's been with us for so long, and I had many different students we have joined this HIKI no class, And I always, kind of like test the waters and kind of see, what they're capable and then challenge them. But at the same time, they really build confidence, and then they realize that they can relate to others. And through her story, I mean, I'm almost certain other students have similar situations, and that gives them the ability to feel that they're also included and wanted and accepted for who they are. So I really am proud of my students that have worked with me, and she's just one of a few that have really taken on the lead. And I'm, just looking at, this story today that we're showing the rest of the world and the islands. I just can't be more happier for that connection.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because we have visitors watching right now from Alaska to Ohio, Nebraska, California, and of course, Miloli as well. So welcome to everyone. I do have a question for you, MESTISA. Why is it important for youth to have a voice?
I think it's important because it's such a unique time in anyone's life, because we look back about launching into adulthood, getting that support, figuring out who you are, really crafting how you're going to move into your job, your relationships, higher education, whatever it is you choose to do. And when we think about the last 20 some odd months, how much disruption has happened for the youth in launching and moving through, and having to change rituals like graduation and figure out how to do those in meaningful ways. And even looking at the different systems that are being impacted, their family themselves, their schools, their community, so many different changes. And I think that finding a youth who can share their voice in such a crucial time, and like KAIMI said, that other students can see themselves in it and have that representation and say, that's me too, that is so crucial to be able to have, instead of having an adult say, and this is how teenagers feel, this is how adolescents feel, to instead have an adolescent say, this is my story.
Yeah. And it's coming from their voice, right?
Yes.
And that's so very important. TERRI, a question for you. As far as vulnerability, you had to somehow let Akea know it was okay to be vulnerable. This question is asking for, this person says, for me growing up, local was about looking good and hiding my vulnerability. Showing up, sharing your heart is such a healing experience. And I think that Akea felt that, discovered that and experienced at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's why I think the reflections are such a great piece for HIKI, because it allows students to be vulnerable and to really explore their feelings and express their feelings. And another thing that was an important conversation for us as we were discussing this is the feelings themselves, but also how Akea dealt with these feelings, and really kind of exploring different outlets and avenues that she had to work through this process. And one of them was music. And as you saw, like that kind of unfolded into its own thing, but it was really tapping into that, like, how did she help get through this? Music was a huge one, and also her family. And so those were two things that progressed and kind of bloomed in the development of this reflection, and really kind of were the cornerstones, I think, of the finished piece.
Okay, Robert, Leslie wants to know, and I love this question because I'm a numbers geek myself. Have you collected any systematic information, some data on the impact of this process on young people who are involved? Leslie says it would help validate the healing impact of storytelling. How are we collecting this data, or are we?
We've started to. With HIKI, we do annual surveys, and we did one. We had several mental health or SEL, social emotional learning questions in the survey. But I think we're learning. We're still learning, and I think probably what we're going to do is develop a reflection on the reflection. After the piece is done, reflect back as we did in this show, what the experience was for the student, and ask the teacher to fill out a before and after. So we definitely have plans to do that. I think also wanted to mention that we are partnering with Mental Health America Hawaii, and I think that they can be helpful in that way too, because we're still television people, not psychologists, and it's great to have a partner who can help kind of interpret what has happened in those terms. So it's I guess the answer is we've started and we're growing into it, but we definitely understand the importance of it.
Yeah, MESTISA, as far as collecting data, it always helps tell a different story as well. And our relationship and partnership with you and your organization is relatively new, but we're so grateful for it. And it's right now, this time of our lives and COVID, it's a perfect match. What do you see in the future for both of us? And also, how important is this kind of process to continue in our schools in a curriculum?
We feel very blessed to be able to kind of join in this partnership. And I think that as I was able to come in and see the film and see the process, that it very clearly highlighted a lot of the things that we often talk about in terms of mental health challenges for students, for adolescents, and for families right now. And that has been going on for a while. If you look at things nationally and even within the state, there's a lot of concern for our youth about mental health challenges, things like depression and anxiety, because of the disruption in them being able to move into meaningful places like they had expected to. And what we're hoping is that, well, yes, we'll be able to look at this qualitatively rich process of storytelling, which is used in different settings all over the country, all over the world. We even have a type of therapy, it's called narrative therapy, where we use storytelling as a healing process, but to be able to look at HIKI now and start to say, like, what are the themes that are coming out? What are the benefits here? And how can we make that just super intentional so that we're able to discuss that? And we want to be able, as Mental Health America Hawaii, to create a really solid base for mental health in the process. So offering like voluntarily to our teachers and our mentors trainings on things like suicide prevention, mental health 101. So they walk through the process feeling really confident that if anything does come up, they're able to support them, but also that we can support those schools, those teachers, and those mentors to get their needs met as well, because we want them to feel empowered and comfortable doing that. And so I do think it's crucial for schools to have this unique way for the kids to reconnect. I think the power of storytelling is not just sharing your own story, but listening to other people's and starting to hear what's happening and then writing your own. And then, yes, of course, sharing.
KAIMI, you're Kumu, you're on the front line. And you have a responsibility as well. But at the same time, you need to understand what your students are going through. But also, is it supported by curriculum? And it can't go without the other. So what's your thoughts on the future of a program like HIKI no and other cultural and arts, how important it is to our curriculum every day?
I'm a real strong advocate for these types of programs because they really address the social emotional learning aspect of many of our students. And some of the mainstream curriculums, it's not meeting their needs. So we're really looking at how we can make it more the program can be more embraced by the students at their level. Sorry, there's some background noise, but I'm hoping that as we see HIKI no grow more and we see schools adopt this type of storytelling, it will really make a big difference for, especially since these last 2 years really affected a lot of our students, just mental health in general. So I'm looking forward to that. So sorry about the background noise.
No, I love it. It's keeping it real, KAIMI. Thank you. KAIMI joining us from Hawaii Islands this afternoon. A comment, Robert, I want you to actually reflect on. Thank you for this comment to the viewer who says, this is an important film for both youth and parents to experience. And I couldn't agree more. And I love the way you took people behind the scenes to watch how Akea's journey unfolded and some of the twists and turns that we didn't even expect would happen and the gems that came out of it at the end of the day. Just your thoughts on that comment.
Well, thank you. And your comment brings to mind that I really want to give a shout out to my co-producer and editor, Brent Keene, who put this together. Quite a task. But in terms of for parents and children, I can't agree more. And what really struck me, doing this show was a journey of discovery for me. I didn't realize the involvement of Akea's parents in the process. And that's something that, even though HIKI no has been in existence for close to 11 years now, we haven't really gone into that arena yet. And it's so important. And the big discovery in the film for me was when she said that it was actually her parents who convinced her to take up the project again. And I loved her comment when she said that, what ifs are powerful, but what if the what if is that this story really becomes something big and something that takes you to a different place. I'm not a parent of humans. I'm a parent of pets, but that comment just struck me as amazingly great parenting. You know, that conversation she had with Akea.
Thank you for saying that, Robert. Leslie asks or says, I love the way this story endorses the importance of holding family meetings, a standard recommendation we make as mental health professionals. And Terry, you, again, some of the unexpected twists and turns at the end, she didn't anticipate, or she didn't expect that her family would arrive. And there was some concerns about driving. And when they showed up, it was a real moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I loved seeing that family gathering at the end because it really shows in the video, she's first starting off alone and she has the sense of being overwhelmed and feeling all of these challenges that are coming across. And that's why when we discussed the storytelling and how to unfold the story, really the end was about, well, how exactly does your family help you? You know, you're not doing this alone. It is with a lot of support, and that kind of helps get you through these challenges together. That was a huge thing. And to see her family come together, I didn't expect it at the time. And so to have them have a presence in the video, I hope it was as impactful for them as it is as a viewer. Even for me just watching it, I knew the story was unfolding that way. But to have that presence there, the visual presence, really helps add impact to the end of the story.
Thank you, Terry. We want to go around the room. We're almost wrapping up here. I want to offer all you folks the opportunity for your final thoughts. And if you don't mind, MESTISA, I will start with you. And again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the partnership we have with Mental Health America of Hawaii and all of our professionals on the call today joining us, because this is going to take a community effort to address not just mental health with adults, but especially with our keiki.
I think the thing that I would hope people would take away from this film is hope and resiliency, to be able to see that despite all those challenges, that things like mentorship and family support and the support of her community was able to help bolster her through all of those difficult times. And I think that that's where we see a lot of ourselves in this story, is the hope and the resiliency, and really leaning in to say, like, I need help, I need more support. And of course, that is the mental health piece of it as well, being able to get what you need in those times. And that would be my kind of parting thought, is to really focus on her resiliency and how much it meant to connect with her family.
Nice. Terry, your final thoughts.
One thing that I think is important about the ending is sometimes students think that they have to have a resolution or some sort of ending that's like a happy ending or something's been resolved. And sometimes I have to say, like, that doesn't need to be the case. Don't feel the pressure to have an answer for anything. Adults don't have an answer for everything either. But it's really just about being honest and showing the process, seeing how you're working through something. And if you don't have the answer right now, that's okay. We can acknowledge that. And Akea still doesn't have answers for things, but it's about having that family support that's helping her through it that I think was the real focus and emphasis.
Thank you, Terry. KAIMI, can you share your final thoughts, please?
Yes, mahalo, Ron. I just wanted to start off by thanking PBS and HIKI for allowing us to be at school for about 9 years so far, and it's been a privilege. And like Akea and many of our students, like I said, it just really is a blessing for me to see them really grow and be able to come to who they are and to be resilient and never to give up on their dreams and hopes. And I just want the best for many of our keikis throughout Hawaii, especially ones that come from little rural areas like us on the Big Island. And I hope it showed today. So mahalo.
Yeah, and Robert, I want to close with you and your final thoughts, but I also want you to reflect on a comment Keith just gave us, saying, thank you for promoting the importance of student voice. Mahalo for your support of our families and our communities. HIKI started 10 years ago as a vision of storytelling and teaching about journalism. It has evolved, hasn't it, my friend? And really to a point where it's changing lives.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think that the HIKI process that you got to see unfold in the film, that's been the process throughout the whole program. But I think what we've learned along the way is that it has different impacts that we weren't even aware of. And because of the mental health issues arising from the pandemic, that came about, that this process actually was helpful in a psychological way. I think my main takeaways from today's discussion in the show is also about student voice and the importance of it. And that is, Akea says it about 3/4 of the way through. She basically said, I felt I should continue on with the project because maybe I'm telling someone else's story who doesn't have the opportunity. And I think that that's really true, that a student voice, when it gets out into the public, can really connect people. And that's the hope. I think I was really pleased that she said that that was her motivation, but it's all our motivation, that someone who's seeing her story relates to it, maybe gets some hints as to how to help themselves, maybe just get some a cathartic kind of release in terms of what they've been going through. But stories connect, and in this age we're only connecting in tiles like this. It's more important than ever, and so that's my main takeaway.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for your team. Great work, and really appreciate as we evolve with this concept of HIKI no and storytelling. It's HIKI no, can do, and you folks have really evolved this to HIKI no 2.0. We're going to conclude this panel discussion right now. We thank everybody for sharing all of their comments and questions. They're still coming in. Somebody wants to mahalo you, KAIMI, for your insightfulness to ask her the initial question of inquiry. So thank you for you, and thank you for the question and the comment. If you have a HIKI no related question, please reach out to us. You can connect with Robert Pennybacker or Eleni Avendano. You can go to give us a call, rpennybacker@pbshawaii.org or avendano@pbshawaii.org. And if you have a specific question about mental health, MESTISA has provided us with her email. You can connect with her directly at mestisa.gas@mentalhealthhawaii.org. And just thank you so much for your time today and spending your afternoon with us. These screenings are going to be more frequent for us, and these talk stories afterward, I think there's a lot of value in them. And we encourage those who watch today to stay tuned because there'll be more of this. And also you're going to get an email from our team. Please give us your feedback. We want to get better. We want to know what we're doing right and what we can improve on. And don't forget, this program will be airing on January 11th on Tuesday, right on PBS Hawaii at 7:30 p.m. We'll also be streaming at pbshawaii.org. Again, mahalo for joining us, and to everybody on the call from Alaska to Nebraska to Miloli, mahalo for joining us. On behalf of myself and each of the panelists and all of us here at PBS Hawaii, mahalo nui.